You're on.
Great. Good morning, it's Friday, April 23rd, 9:30 a.m., Selectmen's work session. We're here to deal with a few items, and why don't we just start off with Mr. Wood. Welcome, and you have a request to make some modifications to the Union Wharf to accommodate tying up float planes.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having us. So my name's Thomas Wood. I go by TR. I have Manaz here with me from Pier 19 Marketplace, and Ken Costa was supposed to show up as well. He's a Molten Borough resident, but he had a death in the family, so he apologizes, and he made a brief statement at the end that I can read to you if you'd like, but he basically represents all the Seaplane Pilots Association in the area. He's the New Hampshire chapter president. A little bit about myself. I'm a commercial airline pilot. I have recently obtained FAA certification out of Mirror Lake to have a seaplane-based private at my dock. I'm a resident of Mirror Lake, and I grew up in the area. I went to Kingswood High School, so I'm very sensitive to the area and the dynamic of the town, and I know a lot of people here, so I have a vested interest in keeping it the way that I grew up and doing things the right way. So I'm not just coming in to try to do something that would raise a lot of flags and make a lot of people angry. So I just wanted to go over this. I'll give you some examples of what we're trying to accomplish here. First off, you have some paperwork from the state, and I wanted to address that. The Pier 19 or 19 Mile Bay landing area actually has nothing to do with the town from a certification standpoint. It's state certified plan of action that will eventually be going through the administrative process along with the FAA's process. And I'm here with Manaz to kind of be her airport quote unquote manager, because I've done this before and I have experience, and we teamed up together to get her own private commercial landing area. The proposals in there talk about different places to approach the dock. One is why we're here today, our first choice of being able to invite seaplanes and make it safe for them to come in. So that's where those two pieces of paperwork come from. Eventually, the administrative timeline can take over a year to have the actual certification in hand, but as of today, the plan has been certified by the state, and as you can read, it's good for up to 10 years for us to get the certification process to be done.
Yeah, if I can
Absolutely
interject here.
Just stop me at any
So we have this piece of paper that says airport site certification,
Yes, sir.
right? And that's good until April 5th of 2031.
Yes, sir.
Now you're talking about something beyond this, is that?
No, that is the state's first step in the approval process. The first step, you have the DOT come out, and I wanted her to come and she never responded, so I'm sure she's just very busy. They had the administrator leave, so they're very short-staffed. So we had a meeting this winter, talked about the plan of what we were proposing for the state, and I had to map out on Google Maps the proposed landing area, which is governed by the state. And in the summertime, the jurisdiction would be Marine Patrol, and in the wintertime, the jurisdiction would be Fishing Gang. So the proposal was just kind of the first step in the process, and they came out, did their site survey. They make sure that there's no local town ordinance that prevent anything. They also make sure that there's no hazards to aircraft by trees or anything like that, or airspace conflicts. And then they give you the documents that that you guys have now. So, any other questions about that?
Not for me.
So they lay out the landing space, and that's between what, Chase Island and Sawyer Point?
It basically just runs northeast, southwest down that channel for, I believe I proposed it as about a mile. If you have questions about conflicts with boats and airplanes and all that kind of stuff, I can tell you that all aircraft landing must give way to any boat traffic. And once the aircraft is on the water, it is considered a boat or a vessel. So all regulations apply, and any access that to a dock or from a dock that a boat would have also equally applies to an aircraft. In fact, there's one exception, is that there is an exemption for seaplanes in a no-wake zone. So if boats are governed by a no-wake zone, it does not apply to seaplanes taking off and landing.
So were there public hearings before? Did they issue a certificate of?
They did.
And were there public hearings prior to that?
They went through their process and they obtained their certification through the normal channels that.
My concern, as we start out here,
Yeah.
is that you got all those people with summer houses. Now they're going to be directly affected by airplanes coming and going. So do they have a voice in this, or is it just the state?
The state it governs the body of land. Now,
So the state at that point in time never fields phone calls. All those phone calls are going to come right here. So how are we supposed? Do you think that we should have some public hearings?
It's up to you guys, but I can tell you that from my experience with the Mirror Lake Seaplane Base, the first step that I did was I went through this process because I was concerned as well as you. I joined the Mirror Lake Protection Association and species mitigation class. I took that for the invasive species of plants and things like that, and I showed my certification to them. I invited people to come when they saw the seaplane to come for rides. I have had nothing but positive feedback from the aircraft coming in and out of Mirror Lake. That does not mean that that will be the same, and I am very sensitive to that. So because of that, we have not obtained a certification for public use. So it is not going to be a public landing area. The procedure that would allow an aircraft to come in or out is called prior permission required. Prior permission required would be that they would have to call Manaz and say, hey, I'm a seaplane, I'd like to come by for such and such amount of time, and then she would grant them permission or say, no, it's not a good day, or it's rough, or there's too many boats out here, and it would be completely up to her discretion. I don't anticipate it becoming some sort of Laconia airport unless we held something like a festival or a like Alton Bay, they have a big ice runway festival and it attracts a lot of attention. You can have a fly-in, quote unquote, where you like advertise in social media or whatever and say, hey, we're gonna have a seaplane fly-in on this day. And I wouldn't anticipate that, all of a sudden we'd have 30 or 40 airplanes flying around and unless there was an event planned.
So if I'm flying a small float plane,
Yep.
am I restricted in my use of the water? If I'm flying out over the lake and there's an area of water and I decide I'm going to land here, is there anything that restricts me from doing that?
A local town ordinance could, yes. And there's proximity regulations, so you have to maintain certain separations. I believe it's 300 feet when you're landing. You can't get within 300 feet of a moving vessel, and I believe it's 500 feet from the shore for takeoff and landing. So you have to maintain all the proximity distances that the regulations require.
And once you're on the water,
You're a boat.
you're a boat.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So I guess one question I have is how this is different. This designated area is different from
Broad
me
Bay.
flying a plane and deciding that I
Take a swim.
want to put down in an area that
Great
doesn't-
question. That is a perfect question, and that is why we have obtained this certification. So if I go blasting off, which I have many times, and land over at Lake Wentworth, and I piss off a bunch of people, and they say, "Hey, let's get a meeting together. No more seaplanes." Okay, and they say it's dangerous or whatever fictitious reasons they come up with, and they just say we don't want it. Such as Massachusetts. There's a lot of body of waters that are very restricted in Massachusetts. If they got together at the town and said, hey, we have a local ordinance that says no seaplanes allowed here. If that were enforced, they would not be allowed to ban the seaplane. So that is a
Which brings me
certificate.
back to the public hearings notion. What you've done is you've subverted the public will, if you will, by going ahead with a landing strip, which is what you're looking for, without the imprimatur of the public. So now we're in a situation, if the public outcry happens,
Yep,
there's nowhere for us to go.
right,
Because you've got your approval, it's a done deal.
right.
The other thing is that we're putting all of the decision-making in the hands of the, I don't know, FBO or whatever.
Yep,
And it's totally out of our hands. So whenever there's a concern from the public, the first place they go is here. And if we don't have an ordinance to control it, and we don't have any control over usage, now we look like Mickey the Dunce. I mean, there's nothing we can do to assuage their concerns. You know,
Right.
whether it's Camp Belknap and their canoes, or whether it's the loon people,
Yep.
or whoever it is, or Bill, who does so much with the invasive species. You know,
so
we
I strongly agree with that.
allow a plane to land that's been on some pond that
Yep.
is
Right.
full of milkweed or whatever that
Right,
stuff is.
absolutely. Those are all concerns, and I indicated that, you know, one of the things that we could do is make sure that the pilots have invasive species mitigation procedures. And seaplane pilots, I know, raise your hand if you are a seaplane pilot. We're all educated on that. That's part of the training to get your seaplane pilot's rating.
Mhm.
And I appreciate what you're saying, I do. And this is not an act of like, aha, here we go, we pulled the rabbit out of the hat.
Right.
My questions or, you know, minimal pushback would be, how would you prevent, from a town's perspective, a homeowner from buying a cigarette boat and running up and down, you know, 19 Mile Bay with their loud exhaust and, you know, like a race boat? Because,
At that point in time, the decision-making comes back to the town. Okay, you got a bunch of cigarette boats out there and they're racing up and down 19 Mile Bay.
right,
Now we can enact a local ordinance. We can work on our state legislators to change something.
I see.
I mean, I would be more comfortable, and this is just me speaking, that's why we have 3 selectmen, of actually asking whether or not this is, I'd rather know beforehand if there's somebody out there that's gonna cause a stink.
Right. And I've found that the individuals who, quote unquote, cause a stink, they have emotional concerns that if you're articulate enough and to sit down and have a civil meeting, their concerns are completely, alleviated.
But one of the ways that you proactively minimize that is if people know in advance that this is something that
It's gonna happen.
is going to happen.
Absolutely.
And which kind of goes back to what Chip was saying about, public notice, public hearing process.
Yep.
Again, we don't have any control over the water. I mean, that's the state's thing. But the first that I was aware of this, and I think the first that my fellow selectmen were aware of it, is when you provided us with the documentation from the state that you've done this, and it's all checked off with them, and it's fine. So ideally, the first time that the neighbors on the lake front down there are aware of it shouldn't be when some guy's coming in. They're on say a Saturday afternoon, and they're, again, it becomes another activity level beyond what they're used to.
Yep.
If they're aware of it in advance and have had an opportunity to say their piece in advance,
And
it doesn't eliminate pushback and criticism. But at least people aren't just surprised out of the blue as to what's going on.
May I just please add something to it? I'm living in Westwood Bay and I'm just by the water.
Right.
And this is like the last 5 years. And we have the seaplane every summer. They come 2 or 3 times. Land, I don't know if it was legal or illegally, on my legal. So on my dock, near my dock, and then they were just very people. So they just collect the people, they just take them there tour, and then they give it to them. And that was not an issue for the last 5 years that I was there. So that was few times that they used to do this in the summer, and it was people. They were very much even. That's the idea came to my head too. People, they were very much open, and then they were just loving to do that. And then the idea of the seaplane is just something like a very, very old-fashioned way to just keep the whole area the way how it was, keep the tradition, keep that things to be alive, bring the business to the town, make the town again to just be a little bit more active. I don't know, some people may be against it, some people maybe they like it, but we have to believe it that the town is growing, from the real estate. The town is growing, and the time that I came over here, it was a very good fact of, make the people a little bit more be active in this town. And this is what supposed to be, whether we like it or not, the area, people, they are coming from all the areas, and then, even from the different state, and they will be settling here too, right?
I see the holistic piece, but the way things are supposed to work, and the easiest way and the most comfortable way that they work, is for us to engage the public. And at that point in time, the half a dozen or 1 or 2 people who are adamantly against it get to say their piece. But then the public decides, at which point the answer's made. If you've got your runway and your land in planes, and somebody comes to us and bitches about it, we can say with authority, we presented it to the public voted, and this is what you have.
Has anyone suggested that we're resistant to that idea?
No, the
Not
only
to my
resistance,
knowledge, no.
Okay, all right.
the only resistance I'm seeing is that you've proactively gone out and got approval from the state.
So I agree with the way that is perceived, and it was unintended. So when we had the DOT person come out, there were some concerns about an aircraft approaching her dock. And we were wondering what the easiest way for an aircraft to come into the docking area. And the idea came up, well, I said to her immediately, well, who owns this pier here? Is this yours? And she goes, no, this is the town. So, and I do not want to come off like, hey, we're going to do this anyway. But the intent was to get an airplane to her dock and have it leave from her dock. But and that is a private dock and a private area, and this is a private landing area associated with her business. So I completely understand what you all are talking about, and I share the exact same concerns, exact same. But there is nothing preventing me from buying a house on 19 Mile Bay, right? And running my airplane in and out of there. No one could stop that at all.
Right.
So, and that, if I had somebody from away who, you know, wanted to come up and just not see an airplane out there in front, they could get angry, but they couldn't stop the process. And I understand from the town perspective, but I guess what the proposal that I understood was, we were just wondering if, and I'm completely fine, and I'm sure you are too, with asking the public if it's okay to have airplanes parked right on the dock there. But from what I understand, the way the regulations are, is that I could park my airplane there now because it's a vessel on the water. And if I go land out in 19 Mile Bay and I want to come and get an ice cream, the only thing that prohibits me from doing that is the potential, and I can show you through some slides of what I'm trying to accomplish, is striking my tail on the dock structure because those posts are up so high. If they weren't there, seaplanes could come in and out of there all day long. I just don't think there's a lot of seaplane activity currently, correct. But if there was a proposal from the town that said no seaplanes here, period, at the dock,
Right.
then they could do that. Now,
So
go ahead.
I don't want to completely leave this, but you mentioned the wharf, which you and I talked about on the phone, and an alteration of the pilings to make it safer for the airplanes.
I made a rendering so that I
Yeah,
could show.
so, you know, one of the questions I have with respect to tying up a float plane at the wharf, assuming there's nothing that's gonna interfere with the tail or the wings, is when it's tied up at the wharf, does the wing extend out over the wharf?
Slightly.
Okay,
Yes, it does.
and if it does, depending upon how slight it is, it can impede access to the fire and rescue boat at the end of the wharf, which is
That's something I never even thought of.
something that I would not be comfortable with. And I'm, you know, again, 95% of the time it makes no difference.
Right.
But if they're responding to a call and they need to get to the boat and it slows them down or prevents them from getting there to get out to deal with the situation on the water at one of the
Yeah.
islands,
Yep.
not a good situation.
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
um,
I didn't even consider that. That's a great thought.
but to come back to this, so there is now an area on the water that's designated by the state as a private landing strip. Does that restrict anybody from using it without getting Manassas permission?
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
So, and so if I'm flying around up there and I want to land, I can't land in 19 Mile Bay without her permission.
That's a great question. I don't know. It does not prevent. Actually, now that I remember, because I went through this with Mirror Lake, it does not prevent someone from landing on the body of water. What it does is prevent them from coming to her dock.
Okay.
That is I remember the certification at Mirror Lake Seaplane Base. The letter of certification specifically says, you know, even though this is considered a private landing area, you're not allowed to restrict anyone from coming in to flying in or out. Your seaplane base only specifically exists at your dock.
And presumably, from the state's perspective, it restricts the addition to that piece of lake that's in here of anything that would restrict its use by somebody landing and taking off. In other words, somebody can't put a mooring buoy out there in the middle of this,
No.
yeah,
Yeah,
If I might,
you may.
I'm aware that the state owns the lake. I really have no issue with Thomas going ahead with his state regulations and things ahead of time. But we as the selectmen represent the voters of the town of Tuftonboro and the taxpayers who own Union Wharf.
yeah.
Right now, I would be very uncomfortable in making any decisions without a lot of input from those people.
Yeah.
And that goes along with Chip's side. We would have to have a public hearing because the state will do what the state does. They always do, and we basically get hung out to dry. They own the lake. They do their thing. Going to the lake, the state first, and then the town, or the town first, and then the state, to me, that doesn't make any difference at all. We need input
Absolutely.
from our taxpayers and our citizens, and a lot of it. And possibly even a warrant article to put it before town meeting next year, although that seems like a long ways away. There's a lot to think about here. And I'm uncomfortable myself today making any kind of decision other than getting more input.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be, argumentative about it or in your face or anything, but I don't have enough information from my people to
I
make an informed
completely agree.
decision.
I completely agree with that, and I see your points, and I have no issue with that. If I may flip the coin,
Sure.
if Manaz were to purchase a dock section that extended out and proper permits were made, that would not prevent doing what she would.
Be absolutely fine.
Right, exactly.
Now you're talking about from her dock.
From her dock.
Right.
From her dock.
Yeah.
That's between Manaz
Well,
and DES.
Right.
And the permitting process does come through the town as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I mean, it's not like we don't have any voice.
No,
at all.
but the
Oh,
permit.
well, I'm unaware. I
Right.
wasn't trying to be arrogant about that at all. I
No,
was
so,
unaware.
so the dock permit is granted by the state. I mean, we're informed and we're an interested party, but the state is what permits docks.
Right.
Replacement of docks, rebuilding of docks, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, again, conceptually, to me, tying an airplane up at the wharf, and I think you mentioned this, it's no different than a boat, other than maybe there are some other things that.
The configuration of the vehicle.
Yeah,
Sure.
but I certainly don't want to embrace anything that would make access to the fireboat or use of the wharf by other parties.
Sure.
Any more restricted than it is.
And a couple of elements that have already been brought up in the file was this notion of having rides.
Yep.
That's not something that we could do or could allow off a 19-mile pier, primarily because it's a commercial enterprise. If we're going to lease the space out for some commercial enterprise, you have to come up with an agreement, but we also have to put it out on the street.
Right.
There might be, I don't know, another floatplane pilot that wanted to do it for and reimburse the town or whatever, but there are a lot more conditions when you get into using public space for commercial purposes.
Understood.
The other part of it is, you're right, you can continue to use the private docks, but is that gonna accommodate the needs that you're looking for?
Well, I mean,
I don't know how many planes you
Right.
can put at that dock.
Right. So one of the slides that I have in here talks about some of the benefits of, of what we're proposing. I mean, we're obviously, you guys are looking at liability and town perspective, and I completely understand that. Ken Costa was going to come and give his speech about the 100-year anniversary of the Weirs Beach Seaplane Association is going to happen. It's supposed to happen this summer, but with COVID, we're not sure. And it attracts a lot of buzz. There's a town in Florida called Tavares, and Tavares Seaplane Base has become this iconic part
It's
of
amazing,
history.
yeah.
It is really,
Yeah.
really a neat place. I don't know if you've ever gone up to Greenville and seen the seaplane pilot fly in up there. I don't think anyone here is suggesting that seaplane access to the town docks would just all of a sudden pop up an operation like that. It is much easier in something like this to say no. It is. And because of all the risks and the things that we've been talking about. I come to you with Manaz to find a way to say yes. I made a little rendition here. I mean, just it's a can you see this?
Yep.
Sort of what it would look like on that side if you were to envision, you know, what we're talking about here with the posts being lowered.
Mhm.
You know, this is what a seaplane dock looks like. Obviously, it's not even close to the width of what the pier is.
Right.
But yes, to answer your question and to be realistic, the wing does hang over the edge for sure. So whether or not, you know, if there's a certain area down the pier, such as, I mean, I'd have to meet with the fire chief, or we would all have to meet with the fire chief and say, hey, how far down do you need to drive to have access to this pier? And then we could say, okay, well, from here down, a seaplane could park. Or, you know, it's much easier just to say no, right? And just call it off and go, you know, we're gonna make too many people mad. But I just come to, you know, it could become a unique spot in the state, in the country, to develop business and some buzz and generate, you know, promote aviation in partnership and be able to do it safely. There is no seaplane dock and I have an amphibian airplane, which means it has wheels where you can land on at anywhere. There are straight float pilots around the world that don't have wheels, and they have to stop across the country at specific spots. And there's nowhere in the state of New Hampshire. Let's say you live in Wisconsin and you want to fly to Greenville. You have to, you know, make your stops at certain spots to get gas, whether it's a friend's house or anywhere else. I'm not suggesting gas at this moment. Could it develop? Possibly. She has some gas pumps, you know, in coordination with the town. You know, it might be something future development-wise, but I can tell you I was ultra paranoid about bringing my seaplane to Mirror Lake. And I can tell you, with all confidence, if we had a meeting, I think people would be ecstatic about it. I think there would be a lot of buzz. I can't imagine this place not becoming a destination for weekend seaplane guys, where they're like, hey, where do you want to go today? You want to get that $100 hamburger, or do you want to get the $100 ice cream cone at Pier 19? And they drop in, stay there for a half an hour, let the kids out, etc., etc. As far as commercial operations, I don't know how to make anything like that possible. I know Dave French, who is the Lakes Region seaplane pilot over in what's the name of the bay over there? Paugus Bay. He's closed up shop and he's moving to Florida. So I'm very good friends with him, and that is the individual that Manaz is talking about, who they called up and said, hey, we want to do a seaplane ride, can you come and meet us at our dock? And they go out and they do that. But the benefits, I think, are something that, you know, it could really put this place on the map, not from a traffic standpoint, but from a, you know, there's been over 100 years we've had seaplanes in the area. They've operated safely, and I don't have any problem putting out a meeting to, you know, or me making a presentation along with Ken and you and speaking to the public or whatever else they want to do. I don't have any issue with that whatsoever.
Well, there are a couple of opportunities that are going to come forward. First is the Island Day, where all the island people meet over on Sand. Is it Sand?
It's Ragged.
Ragged.
Yeah. The Islanders Association has an annual meeting in
Probably a
July.
good place to come by on that day and throw a presentation at them. I don't think we're here with the premise that we're gonna say no. I think we just need to answer the question of, we've been elected to do certain things and to protect certain things and to run the town. And how is this project marrying with that need that we have? I mean, I remember Russ Whitten, not Russ Whitten.
Child.
Russ Whitten.
No, it was Russ, okay.
You know, they moved to Lobster Lake, and that's all they did was fly in and out of there.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right up in Greenville. I know
Yeah.
Lobster Lake. That place is great.
And I'm not opposed to the idea of having seaplanes down there, or even working off of Pier 19 a little bit. But married to that is this idea that we're currently in the process of trying to reconstruct Pier 19.
How do you read my mind?
And we're,
I was just gonna say, how does this work in our efforts
Well,
to rebuild Pier
it
19?
could be that it's another element that we can add
Absolutely.
to the list of things that we're gonna tell governor and council when we go into that grant,
Sure.
right? And a use for that side of the pier that doesn't require dredging, because
Which they're not,
Which has been a sticking
yeah,
point.
they're
But we're
not
always gonna push on
enthusiastic
that
about it.
dredging idea if
Right.
we're gonna continue to be limited to boats only over there.
Sure.
So they gotta know that's not gonna go away even if we do.
Right.
Well, the
I
seaplane
guess from-
typically has 18 inches of
Yeah.
water to need access. And so you can get in quite easier than a boat.
The last element that I was gonna mention, before I forget, because I'm getting old, is that you do need to talk to fire and rescue, you need to talk to Adam, for a couple of reasons. One, I've been in places where planes crashed, little planes
Yeah.
like yours.
Yep.
And there's a certain amount of effort that has to go into making that right.
Yep.
We've got a inflatable, or whatever that thing's called, that
Yeah, rigid inflatable boat, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
right. Yep.
you're talking about landing on the ice. So that, how is that gonna impact our fire and rescue as far as
Oh, the airboat, yeah, wintertime,
your needs
yeah.
in the event of some calamity?
Right.
The other, if we go into the winter months, okay, now we got the ice fishermen.
Yep.
Now, who's gonna lay out the ice runway, if
Right.
you will, and then keep those ice fishermen off of there, or away from your approach, and whatever your needs are in order to maintain that.
So that's a great question. I currently land out in the wintertime on Mirror Lake all the time. I have skis for my airplane, and I just went back on the floats today. So that is a question that I understand from a person who doesn't fly, and I'm not trying to say that, you know, in any type of negative way. It's a great question. If there's a bob house in the middle of the landing area, pilots don't land there.
No, I
mean, they just don't.
You still have to have the discussion with the Bob House owner, okay, time to move your Bob
No,
House.
you don't. He has every right to be right there.
Okay, so you don't have any
Nope.
property rights?
Nope, nothing.
Delineation?
Zero. They
rights?
could put 150
Because we
bob houses out
can't-
there.
You can't put a mooring field out there for boats.
Right.
Oh, I don't know if you can't.
Well, I mean, what's the purpose in having a designated area for takeoff and landing in the water that's blessed by the state,
Right.
if they then allow somebody to put hazards to aircraft in that area?
Right.
I mean, it seems to me that it would be a totally empty process to do this and then, now, as a practical matter, it's far enough from shore that they would typically permit moorings in there anyway, but,
Well, that's the point I was
Yeah.
making.
but
Maybe that's a question that we just need to have somebody ask the state. I mean, I don't think this thing that you got was free, was it?
Yeah,
Oh, was it?
yep,
Oh, nice.
no cost.
So they haven't charged you any money, which is.
well,
odd
it
for
wasn't
this-
free, we paid for it.
Right,
State of
taxpayers.
We all paid for it.
Right.
Their time and effort.
But there must be I mean, I think clarity would be a lot.
Yep, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I
know
wasn't
guys,
aware of it.
I know people that ice fish out there.
Yep,
And if you can catch them early in the day, you can generally have a reasonable conversation with them. And it's just, that conversation has to happen. It's
Not I'm wearing a mask.
As long as they've been-
yeah, before they get to her store.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I've seen public gatherings out on the ice where people are,
Right.
having parties out there and.
The beer fest.
Yeah, right, the
Yeah.
beer fest. I mean, that's the type of thing that is so cool about what we're talking about is that, if somebody landed out there, it would generate a lot of like, oh, look at that, that's really cool. And there'd be an exchange of information. And I'm here just to facilitate the process and try to make it, as transparent as possible. I mean, I'm 100% on board with what you guys are talking about and not trying to say, but I mean, again, from the town perspective, I completely understand from what you're saying, but I mean, there is literally nothing stopping anyone from coming in with a privately owned airplane and just landing out there. There's nothing stopping. I mean, just the same as a boat.
Right.
So
The
I
issue
guess
is your ability to tie up at Union Wharf.
Well, so that's my point, right? So if you guys redesigned this and you wanted to prevent seaplanes from being there, you would just put 6-foot high posts in there.
Right.
If you didn't care and you redesigned a really nice, like in Maine, almost all the docks have posts that are right down to the edge with cleats. That place is wide open for seaplanes to come in and out of. There's nothing stopping you from a regulatory standpoint.
Right. We can regulate the use of the dock
Yes.
statutorily through the town. But I think what would be handy for us would be if you could craft a page or a page and a half of the perceived benefits that you see for utilization of the pier.
Yep.
Because as the process goes forward, and I think, and we'll talk about this a little later, Bill, about
Yeah.
the governor and council meeting. One of us, and probably that one right there,
Somebody over on this side.
this guy over here, is gonna end up going before the governor and council when we ask or petition for a grant and right, and consequently a $250,000 rebuild of that pier. So any amount of information that would help us in that process is gonna endure to your benefit as well.
Yep.
So if the state feels that the loss of the Paugus Bay landing, for instance, is impactful enough that having something replace it over here in 19 Mile Bay is a good thing. I mean, I don't know enough about
Sure.
floatplanes.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever been in a floatplane.
Come on over. I'll take it for a
I've been
ride.
in small planes.
I'm happy to take anybody.
I watch
over.
Airplane Repo, just so you know.
Which is about the most fake thing ever.
But I love
So,
it.
but it's fun.
yeah.
I watch it too. My son, he's 13. He's like, oh, I gotta watch this show. He's like, that's not real. That's not real. How did they get the camera inside the airplane when they're trying to
Where are
steal
those
the
guys?
airplane?
Yeah.
They're shooting from the outside.
Right,
too.
right.
But at any rate,
Yeah.
I think if you could supply us with some, just your position or what your perceived benefits are,
Yep.
that might help us. It's gonna be a process, I think, that's gonna go for probably a year, because we
It's good.
don't have any warrant article for 19 Mile Pier this year, and that's how we have to fund
Yeah.
projects, so it would
Yeah,
have
we
to
don't
go
have,
for.
we don't have a rebuild article. We have the design
Or
board
permit
money all
Right.
done, yeah, for the permit and the designing, yeah.
Right.
But, yeah, we're not gonna be doing any rebuild construction, and who knows how long the grant and right is gonna take to get through
It should
government
take,
council.
yeah, it should, well,
I don't know.
it shouldn't take.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
why we need the people to come to this town, so the taxpayer will be more, so
Yeah.
then they can pay their taxes,
So-
so they can
Yes.
do all this kind of stuff. That's what we are looking for, right?
Right,
Mhm.
And our taxes goes down a little bit, I'm paying 2 taxes in this town, so it is.
I'm brainstorming to make things happen, and we're talking about the crash fire rescue thing. We can put a stipulation in there that says no overnight parking, no unattended parking, et cetera, where, you know, it could only be pick up or drop off, it could only be
Yeah.
eat at the restaurant, and if they hear the fire engines coming, they gotta push off and get out of the way.
We already have a time limit on parking on
There you
the
go.
town wharf.
There you go.
But, so,
Yeah, I don't know.
and I think that would at least apply
Yep.
to that, but,
Well,
But I do-
plan is a boat.
Right,
that's what I said, yeah, right.
It has to apply.
That's right.
but I do, you know, the overhang of the wing and its interference with access to the fire and rescue boat, which we keep at the outboard end of the wharf, is,
Usually when I notice that the fire department, when they park in this side and in the top, not in the side that we are just going to land. This is what I
Right.
noticed from the
Right.
every
Only-
captain.
it's 'cause
But it is
there isn't
there.
enough water on the,
Yes.
Right.
on the north
Right.
side.
Yeah, because I noticed that this, near that shore, near the road, there
so-
is not enough
So-
water that they can
so
just
but
go in,
if
so.
if you observe, when they take the fireboat out,
Mhm.
they come down from the fire station and they drive out onto the wharf,
Sure,
Right.
to get as close to the end as they can, and part of it might be transferring gear, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and part of it is,
yes.
we need to get mobilized and out of here as quickly as we can. The apparatus is on the wharf, they get on the boat and take off. So if there's a wing overhanging
Right.
the wharf and they can't get and a fire truck is not a small
Right.
thing, it's not like you can
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
And the
a
simple is-
compact car that might be able to
So-
slip under the
I
wing.
saw most
Ultras
of their
and-
activities, yeah, but I saw it many times that we have demonstrations.
So what would prevent, and I'm just being devil's advocate, putting the fireboat much closer to the shore than out on the end?
I think
So-
it's draft.
Yeah, I think that, again, particularly in the, as you know, they draw the lake level down in the
Sure.
fall,
Yep.
okay? And you put in the two things I'm aware of. One is water depth, okay? You want to have adequate water depth. The other thing is, once you're on the boat, if you're at the end and out, you're gone. If we're parked further back inboard and you got other boats that are in there, now you're maneuvering around
Yeah,
and out,
makes
and it's
sense.
just slowing
You
the
got an
process down.
efficient game that stays there as
Yeah.
well.
Yep, makes sense.
And,
Right.
you know, the other, I mean, and it keeps moving here, because we also have, I mean, I don't know how many houses out on the lake. So you've got barge traffic that comes in and out of there for building materials. You have, trash day, where
Right.
we actually put a dumpster on the pier. All the people from the island can bring their stuff in. And that, you know, those dumpsters are,
Mm-hmm.
are 8 feet high.
These are
I like the
always
idea
pre-calculated before,
of-
I guess.
You know, another dimension to use of the lake in Tuftonboro, and 19 Mile Bay is a great place for it. My concern is that in embracing these new things, that we create a restriction on some existing uses, particularly as it relates to emergency access, that will be not a good thing.
Right.
And,
Yeah, so I think we'd have to have a longer discussion with Adam, the fire chief,
yeah,
and probably Andy, the police chief.
I mean, we could even do a proving run, if you will, on a calm day. If I could have somebody come out and catch me on that side, and I'm not going to be blown around at all. I mean, typically a float plane comes in and kind of makes a slow, you know, approach to a dock. But you know, if I could get to a spot on the dock that we could all just go, oh, okay, this is a typical Cessna float plane. Okay, that's what it would be, and the fire chief would go, well, that's not a problem, or, oh my God, we can't do this at all.
yeah.
So I would be okay with that.
So, I
Yeah, I
mean,
think
I don't have any real calibration on typical wingspan on a float plane that you might, and again, they're not all exactly the same.
Sure.
But, you know, what kind of plane are we normally gonna see coming in on our lake?
Piper
and-
Cub
and-
size,
and-
Cessna 180
and-
wing.
and how-
We're talking, I mean, there's a Cessna 180.
Right.
That's my aircraft.
Familiar with
But
that.
there was some of those that float on the water that were around here for a long time.
A whole airplane, like an actual, what they call flying boat,
Yeah,
would have,
an amphibian, yeah.
and listen,
John,
those airplanes have dock access problems everywhere.
Oh, sure.
Like they don't, I mean, their wings are this far above the water. They can't approach any dock. That's why you see these airplanes a lot more.
Right.
But,
And
you know,
that's why,
that's
when the
typically.
Navy had amphibians, they have ramps every place.
Right.
So they come in and you
Yeah, I just- they
you
used
bring
to
it up
make
on the
them
ramp up
I
on
think they built
the,
them in Sanford or something.
So we can propose a ramp then, right?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
just buy the
I'm okay with that.
$3 million house next door. and put a
I'm
ramp
okay
on.
with that.
I mean, the other, one of the other issues, I mean, and we have to be clear-sighted about, can't talk about every possibility, but if somebody comes in, catches a ride to Wolfboro or whatever, visiting friends or what, and the plane's tied up, and all of a sudden, you can't take off because of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Now the plane's there
Yep,
until the weather changes.
that's a great point.
Now, how does that affect the catastrophic fire on Ball Island? Or how does that affect the domestic violence on Waterbury Island?
Right.
And the difference, of course, between a private dock, like your dock or Manassas dock, somebody tied up there, that's your problem, okay?
That's right.
So you can't use the dock for anything else. But because it's a community
Yep,
asset, it becomes our problem when somebody else says, well, you know, this thing's been there for 3 days, yeah, I know the weather's bad, but, you know, I can't get in and out, and I wanted to do this on it, and
Yeah.
it's,
So I think it's more than a one-day discussion.
Sure.
And I
Yep.
think having that fly-in that you talk about is probably a good thing, including the fire chief in that, and the fire captain in that.
yeah,
So that we can kind of get I mean, you can't fly in there now because the posts are too tall.
well, that's what I'm saying,
what
is
it
that literally, if we all had a meeting and I came in and flew in and everybody stood there.
as long as somebody catches your tail, you're okay, right?
So
Yeah.
what I would
We always
literally
do
do is, let's just pretend this is the pier. I would come in over on this side and I would shut down. And I would jump in the water with my bathing suit on. And I would walk it over
Let's
to.
do it this afternoon.
Right. I would walk it over to the dock. I would walk it over to the dock and everybody would be like, okay, the tail's clear, we're fine. And then when I left, I would just push it off. But
as long as you set of waiters.
yeah, I have some waders too. I mean, seaplane pilots all have multiple sets of waders. The problem is do you get the ones here that you can fly in, or do you get the ones here and you sweat all day? So,
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, it becomes a challenge, of course, but you know,
Yeah.
this is obviously a floating dock, so
yeah, right, which certainly helps in terms of clearance. If
you know,
it's-
that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, so is there a possibility, and I've never even really considered this until this right now, but could you come in and put an attachment to the pier that was a floating platform?
That became just an airplane platform.
Yeah, and which is an obvious,
Yeah.
an obvious approach, and
I'm aware of a,
I think it's a possibility, but again,
I think
that isn't us, that's,
Yeah, and I think we want to we need to get through this major hurdle of the grant and right, so that we've got solid, I mean, the pier's been there for 150 years, but
Yep.
we have this problem with the state records that they don't have a record of us getting a grant and right, so they think that they own the ground underneath the pier. So we're working on, and we need to rebuild it.
Yep.
And in order to rebuild it effectively, there's gonna have to be a little bit of expansion on each side. We're talking about sheet piling it. I don't know if that should make any
What
difference
is
to
sheet
you.
pile?
It's what
So
you see
it's,
in Florida. It's kind of
yeah,
like corrugated metal.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Right.
Or a
Yep.
coffer dam.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So we need to go through the process of getting the governor and council to give us that grant and right. The head of the DES has said he's gonna recommend it. So I think the process will move forward pretty reasonably. But we need to go through that step before we start asking for a 20 by 20 float dock off the right
Right.
side.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was just a spitballing idea.
Yeah.
But with the corrugated metal siding, as long as it weren't, you know,
Oh,
way
it's
up
flush.
here. Right, it's
Flush with
flush,
the
so which is ideal for a float line.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's
It's
ideal.
all over Florida, so.
Right.
Everybody must
And-
be used to it.
And I mean, if you made it a seaplane parking area, some recycled tires on the sides would be even better.
Yeah.
But most of us carry our own bumpers anyway, so.
mhm.
But
Which you have, by the way, some recycled tires around the area anyways, in the fire department side. Like, it is already there. We can add it up. Right.
But I really think that, you know, we're talking about multi-million-dollar homes on the lake, right?
Right.
And to actually put the seed in someone's head to say, hey, you know, there's a friend of mine, and he runs Acadia Seaplane Service up out of Rangeley Lake, and I do not have a permit to do this, so don't think that that's on my future, but he flies charters from the Rangeley Seaplane Lake area down to Logan, and he has clients that fly up there on a regular basis. So this could be a spot where all he had to do was circle in, tie up for 10 minutes, dump them off, and off you go. So there'd be access for homeowners to be able to come in and out. I mean, how long does it take to drive here from, you know, Boston or New York City or wherever else? So, theoretically on the horizon, people could do that. You know, it would be a neat way to get in and out very quickly to the airport. Now they come into Laconia in a jet or whatever. they
Yep.
have, So,
And they still have to drive around.
and they still have to drive there.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
I
we could,
mean, you could have their boats.
we
and
could
back
have
there.
a 30-foot hack of crap water taxi, you and me.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, that's
see?
right.
See?
That's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
Right.
I'd like to try to
Can't afford to maintain it, that's the problem. Yeah,
So there is a lot of possibility,
There is
yes.
a lot.
A lot
Yeah.
of possibility.
Yeah.
We have to go step by step and see how it works and then benefiting your town, my town,
yeah,
ourselves, and then make it Pier 19 as a destination. Again, I'm seeing as a business point, so I want to just bring
Sure.
the people over here, and I need
right.
to
The
survive.
more people that come to your
And I
store, the
need to
better.
survive, and I need to just be here, and this
Yeah.
is my plan. When I came over here and I just invest that much of money in such a place, and I make it so beautifully, I want to just also make sure that I just attract the other people and more people.
Right,
And I believe that always there is a criticism. Some people they like it, some people they don't like it. But look at how we are right now. I don't have not even single people to come to my store and they don't appreciate what I did and they don't respect what I did. And they are not happy with the food and service that I give it to them. Not even a single person. So that I'm so proud of. And this is something that the town has to put it as a, you know, in a calculation that, okay, this girl, this lady, what she's doing here, is it good, is it bad? So we can do better. We can do better and we can do even more. And then with the help of TR, that to make it this place as a destination.
Well, what-
It's not only just a business, it's a tradition. You know, even the people who they were just knowing about this sea plan, which you guys all know about that, they are all excited about it. There will be always maybe some people they oppose these ideas always. So we have to look for the bright side. We have to see what it goes for the best. You know, the kids they like lollipop when they don't have teeth in their mouth. So should I give it to them or should I not give it to them? So it's very simple thing that I'm asking. So this is the good stuff. It's the good stuff.
Yeah.
And even though we were thinking about if we can talk to Adam and fire chief and everybody else, if in case in the meantime we can just get going because we don't want to lose the season, and then if I can just go and if in case they accept it, we can even take the cost and cut some of those pill here by ourselves, so the town doesn't have anything to do with like
I know, that's what
cost
you'd
and
love to
everything
do.
else. I mean, after that,
Just one night.
This is what
Like they
I.
just, disappeared. I'd be like, I
We
don't
can
know.
do that cost and expense to by ourselves, so in case if the town will thinking about that, but we need to just, and then plus, again, that side of the things that we were thinking and landing and measuring it, it's so shallow that the fire department cannot come over here anyways, so his aircraft can easily float to that side.
Although
So-
town government doesn't work anywhere near as slowly as the federal government. We still work a little bit slowly.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to
Understood.
go through the process.
Understood.
Sure. But this is all our say, so this is what it was in my idea. To say.
But from what you're saying is that even if we did have this development, that, I mean, I do, in full disclosure, I have a certificate to do scenic air tours in the aircraft, and I could do it off of my dock in Mirror Lake. Now, I
Or you could do it off of her dock.
well, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's what I was getting at. But you guys are saying that that is just 100% not allowed, or would we have to have an agreement between the town or put it out there? Would it be another step to this process?
I think there would have to be an agreement between the town that owns the wharf
Yep.
and whoever the business is, because
Yep.
you're running a business enterprise
Right.
from that, and one of the well, part of what goes into the mix there is if we're going to open the wharf up to business enterprises of some sort, then we need to have an open process of considering enterprises to use it
Yep.
and getting from where we are to somebody using it.
I'm thinking the way that Wolfboro does it, you actually just apply for a tour operator from the dock, such as, Mount Washington,
Right.
Right.
and they pay a small fee to the
They-
town for the permit to come and access the property.
That's right. They have a license from the town of Wolfboro
Right.
to use that for a commercial operation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's,
As does the Millie Bee.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
As do the guys that run the hot dog carts and that sort of thing.
Right.
Again, these are business enterprises that are operating from town property.
Right.
And there's,
Is there a permit process in Tuftonboro or Mirror Lake to do that? Or would that have to be something that would be
I
developed?
don't know that there's I mean, if you wanted to run scenic tours out of your house, I don't think there isn't a permit process for that.
Understood, but that's not public property. That
Right.
appears public
Right.
property.
Don't we have a vendor's license that can be purchased?
Hawkers and peddlers.
What's that?
Hawkers and peddlers.
Hawkers and peddlers, yeah, well,
Falls into that.
it may not be a hot dog stand, but it kind of falls under your hawking your business, so to speak, and peddling.
Right.
We don't, although we did it and are in the process of having 2 cell towers put on public property. And we do have lease agreements with that. I mean, the legal portion of that would probably take you to your knees, because I mean, you're running an industry or an operation that has inherent danger. 2, you're doing it off public land. The insurance requirements are gonna be pretty significant, because now I'm married to a plaintiff's attorney. So you crash your plane, you've got $1 million worth of insurance. Well, we've got $10 million, and we're not out of the woods.
Right.
And we're the deep pocket. So the town all of a sudden has an obligation to defend, if nothing else, and
Right.
probably to pay.
Right.
So now, what happens to our insurance premiums? So there's any number of steps along the way before we get into running a commercial operation off of a town property. Not to say it can't happen.
Right, I mean, Wolfboro's a classic example, or Alton, or Guilford, or any of those places.
Yeah, and we'd have
Sure.
to talk to them
Sure.
to see how they did it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure their carrier's probably Primex, just like
Yeah,
ours. So
everybody
it
uses
isn't-
Primex, so.
It isn't
so
something we had
the
to
insurance
invent.
carrier certainly has a way forward.
Yeah,
There are other towns that have and are doing it that can provide a sort of a blueprint to getting there.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, for
the
sure.
the straightforward way to run your commercial operation is from a private dock that,
yeah.
is totally outside of the,
Sure.
Yeah, 'cause
And do you need a permit for, your dock, as far as like,
My dock is just like if you can land over there,
Yeah.
that's okay. I am okay with it. I don't have any problem with it. I have 2 docks. but if you need to just expand it a little bit, so then we have to just go and get the permit for that expansion. Or just floating one, that just take it out, put
Right,
it in,
right.
something like that, we can do that.
But that's
But-
aside from
but this
anything
is,
that has
yeah.
to do with you guys.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Okay.
there's nothing.
That's-
And
None
then,
of our business.
and then plus, yeah, and plus, what I was not understanding is that those insurance that you have for your dog and everything else, it is just applied to every boat that they come and you launch over there and you accept any boat which they are coming from, the things. So it's not gonna be different a little bit till
Well,
when we are just putting
no,
a dog
you're
in.
providing, I mean, in that case.
Because
the
you have
boat-
people.
The boat owner owns the boat, owns the car, owns the trailer, gets in the boat, drives around the lake. We don't have any participation in that. The minute we rent space to an operator, now we're in the.
We're partners.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the circle.
Yep.
You know, we're allowing
We're
him to
beyond
do
the,
something.
we're beyond the public accommodation at that point.
Right.
We're-
Is that
we're-
the same, I mean, I try to understand, is it the same thing that if they just, they are coming always from, they use your dog to come to my office all the time, to
Yeah.
come to my shop? Is it that something different than that? I wanna try to find out.
If you've got a hole in your dock and
Because
they fall through.
they will
you're
come
liable.
through your dock, they launch to your dock and they stay there and then I come to my shop and then they go from your dock and then they launch it over there. So I think to me, it's the same concept as we were just coming there and then doing that, which we are not going to park anyway, but they park. They park
Okay.
at your dockside.
But
So we're-
that's
we're
two
talking
different-
several
two
different
things.
Right.
If I own 19-mile pier and
Mhm.
you're just sitting here talking,
Mhm.
let's go down and take a sawzall, cut it down, make it happen. That's not the process.
Mhm.
So what you gotta get out of your head is this notion that somehow it's a one-on-one discussion. It isn't. We just represent the
About 2,300 people.
2,300
Yeah, I know.
people.
Yeah.
Are you,
And we're holding their assets in trust. And they look to us to make sure that their trust is.
but I don't, I mean, if coming to the cutting those piers, I think there is nothing wrong happening to this structure of the whole pier, I mean, whole dock, and there is nothing also, some of them also needs to be replaced, you are going to replace it anyways, and then those 3-4 of them, not even more of them, is not gonna be appear to be any having problem for even the structure of the dock or safety of the dock or anything to be happening for that. I think that is just like some of them also is
So,
just
so the
brought it
the
already.
open question at this point
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
is the restriction of use of the wharf caused by the wing overhang, at least in
Right.
my mind, okay? So anybody else that comes up and comes along and ties up there are using the sides of the wharf as a place to tie up their vessel, okay? An airplane, you tie up there, you're using the side of the wharf plus you're restricting the use of the top of the wharf by other people while your airplane's there. That's different than somebody with a boat tying up there.
We wouldn't have this
And-
discussion if the fireboat wasn't there. Right?
Well,
I mean,
we
it
might-
would be- it would be less, it would be less than, right, right.
Right, it would be less of an issue.
Right.
I mean, we still have the same issue with some guy wants to come in there and he wants to tie his barge up and he wants to put stuff on the barge and take it out and work on the island, but because your wing is overhanging, he can't get his material onto the barge.
Sure.
So it's a different consideration when you got emergency access,
Sure.
which we have with a fireboat. But
Sure.
it's always a consideration when, it's no different than, let's say you're gonna park at a parking place downtown Wolfboro, curbside parking place, only the side of your vehicle extends out across the whole lane next to where you're parked, so nobody that's driving along
Right.
there can drive anymore.
Right.
It's a more extreme example, but you're restricting other members of public's ability to use that space.
Understood.
So,
Yeah.
now, the commercial versus private, that's a whole nother arena, as we were just discussing. And in terms of somebody coming in with their craft, tying up to the wharf that belongs to the town, and the town's liability for it, It's different than if we have a contractual arrangement with somebody that's running business from
Right.
town property.
I mean, we're still taking on a little liability just by letting the airplanes in there. Although theoretically, they're considered boats at that point in
Right.
time. But we're not the FBO, we're not controlling any of that activity.
Right.
That's all privately held.
Right.
Correct.
So it's a different kind of discussion. And I'm not ready to get on there with a Sawzall and cut those posts down just to convenience this particular
No,
test.
this is the
Because
after.
at that point in time, we're walking down that slippery slope towards completion. And we need to go through the decision-making process. That's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
So right now, because of the posts that are sticking up, the likelihood that somebody's gonna come in there with their float plane and tie up is very low.
Almost zero.
Right, right. If we cut those posts off, regardless of whether we say we want people to come, people are gonna come. And we haven't addressed how do we deal with the access on the wharf
Right.
piece.
Yeah. Plus public perception and everything else.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
We're all tiptoeing around. that.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, if we
So,
make a deal, that's cool. I mean,
Back-
but we also have to
back
make
to-
a deal with your operator so that everybody's on board as to how it's being used, so that when we get the phone call complaint, we have an answer right off the top of
Absolutely.
our head.
Right.
Absolutely.
We don't wanna look
Right.
like we don't know what's going on.
Right.
so to the other piece, which is an extension of your dock to accommodate these, I have no idea how much longer you're.
It is just like time consuming for us at this point. I can go through it, it's gonna make it a little bit harder, it's gonna be, again, go through the process of the, you know, how to go to the state and do this, that, which it is okay, but it's time consuming.
Mhm.
And I was just hoping that with your help, I can just get going very sooner than waiting for another 6-7 months and COVID is just not there, this is coming. This is a process. So I was just hoping that I can get your help and then I just get going to not lose the season and then just, you know, there is nothing that is not gonna benefit the town, nothing that is not to benefit anybody and not any attraction for you. It is exactly the way how you are just making the hot dog things over there or beer feast there and then you are bringing ton of people over there. They are just, I've been there in the winter and it was a lot of people with the 10 trucks in the same spot they were parking, they make the same, you know, I was scared of those things. But there is always risk in everything that you want to do, which you are going to do it and every time it is there, you know, like in the public place that you are creating already. So for me, there's risk and then doing this, it is zero basically, and it is not, I'm not saying it's nothing there, but at least it gives us a little bit, attraction to the area, and it gets us to just get going and make sure that it's ball rolling, you know. If I want to go to the state, which I do, if I started today, maybe it takes 1 month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months, I'm losing the season.
Who
So-
owns the shoreline along the road there? Where the,
Ramp.
no, off, if you're facing the lake, off to the left, between her dock and the swimming beach.
The state.
The
State.
state.
Yeah.
Because if that were sandy and no rocks, airplanes could just beach themselves right there and walk over.
But it isn't sandy.
Right.
No, it is wrong, right.
Understood,
Actually, I found it
understood.
out.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to sit here and
Yeah.
brainstorm to.
It is just like, you know, working together. It is
Yeah.
just something that
Yeah.
you help me, I'll help you, we help you, you help us. It's just something to let the ball rolling and then make it happen. And make it happen today is better than tomorrow. Not only because of that, because the idea brought it up to you and then this has already been done. And plus, you know, one way or another, we're gonna do it. But it will be harder to do it different way, but still I'm gonna do it. So if we can work together, so we can do it a little bit smoother and we can get it done and you know, everybody will be happy and I'm sure that we can accommodate with the people who they park there or I can be always there. I'm 16 hours a day, every single day in my shop, so everybody knows. I can just always accommodate with the police department, always with the fire department, make sure that everything is going very much smoothly. We are not going to do the back to back, you know, the twice a week, 1 hour, 2 hours, that's all we want to do. We are not the airport, and we are not going to just tell them, oh, you know why? We are just like every 2-3 hours, ding, 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 no. It will be less crowd than the boat that already is there,
All right.
to be honest with you.
Okay,
But it is just something.
Just remember, this is the first time we've had this. This is the first meeting we've had.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We never get anything done in the first meeting. Secondly, we're not gonna probably get an agreement together without some sort of control on this end. I mean, if it's all privately controlled, then do it on your own dock.
Sure.
Mhm.
You know, if you don't, I mean, you can tell me today, there's not gonna be any more than 2 airplanes a day that come in there, or 4 or 5. And let's say I go down there tomorrow and there's 10,
Oh,
and I say to you, what the hell's going on? You told me 5. There's nothing that we can do about it. So we need to get that agreement in place, as well as the buy-in from police and fire,
yes.
before we go further, and it's never gonna happen.
So do you want us to just have another meeting and talk to the Adam and everybody else, or you want us
No,
to
I
just
think we
respond
wanna
there, you
have-
want to talk to them, or
We need to have a conversation with,
Yeah.
you guys want to do that, or all of us together, what do you
Well,
want?
and then we'll bring everybody together and
Yeah.
we'll go down and.
Sure.
Fair enough, sounds like a process.
Yeah.
Step one,
They're coming in
C'est dommage, mais c'est vrai.
Monday.
we get the dominoes lined up.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Police and fire are coming in.
Police and fire at their
Yes, yes.
monthly meeting with us on Monday.
Sure.
So this topic will be part of the discussion on Monday. And then I think maybe we'll have Adam reach out and put together some kind of,
That's
Yeah.
fine, yeah. I mean,
And then
I
let
think
us
we're-
know about everything else that we have to do it, we will just all go with all the things that they need to
And
be
then
done.
our efforts to reconstruct have to go through the state, which could hold things up even more. Because we don't want to start something, then you can't use it for this period of time because we have to do the reconstruction, dry the sheet pile. There's so many aspects to this.
So I think if, and I appreciate what you're saying, I think I share her haste of wanting to get operations going.
Understand.
I completely get that. But if you guys could maybe look at this as a phased approach, maybe, you know, if we could, step 1 or step A be, you know, go through all the process that we need to see if it's okay to have those dock pilings lowered. And then also the process of what you just said, which is like redesigning the pier and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want it to be like, well, you guys gotta wait until the pier is completely
Yeah.
redesigned. That's all I'm saying.
and Manoj, to address your interest, I know you'd like to get going right now. You didn't just start this process last month though, right?
Actually, we did.
You did.
I mean, it was all on me. It was me. And I don't want you guys to think 1 second, and I just want to put the big pink
It was
elephant
very
in the
quick.
room.
It was
I'm
very
gonna
quick.
recognize
It comes to
that.
us like that.
She was not sneaky or trying to do anything about that. I initiated contact with her and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And she said, you know, and from my ignorance, I never dealt with the town. I had done the process of what I had done for Mirror Lake and
Yep.
my seaplane base,
Yep.
and I just went right down the steps, and then I was like, uh-oh, this pier is owned by the town,
So-
we better contact the town.
All I'm suggesting is, however many weeks ago you guys started this, if you talk with us at that point, and we start the conversation instead of starting it today,
Yeah.
or, you know, last week when you called me, then we would
No,
be
I
that
mean,
much closer to getting
We
it done.
thought maybe this is the process that we have to go first through, so we never even think about that.
Right,
We have to
and
go to the
I
town first.
contacted you,
So-
remember,
so,
I
yeah,
picked up the
it
phone.
was so
Soon as you
quick.
got it, yeah.
We just proposed to the state, they just came 3 days after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just picked the things out, it was so quick, and that was the process that we have to go through. First, we have to go through who owns this state, so we have to go through the state. So we did that, and then now we have to go through the town, so it's a process. So we didn't skip anything, we just go the way how we should do. And now it is in this point that I bring it to your attention, and it was not very long.
It's gonna take as long as it takes.
Yeah.
Right.
It just is gonna take as long as it takes. I get it.
It was not planned for the last
Yeah,
year or something like that, just quick.
Looking forward to the rebuild of the pier. And let's say everything went right on that, we'd be doing that about now, next year.
Right.
That's gonna take,
Sure, we have to have plan B,
Yeah.
because it shut the pier down.
right,
Right.
so you may wanna start your operation this year, right at her dock.
I might do that anyway, but at the same time, you know, if people, this is me speaking from a private operator, commercial operator, you know, it'd be great to have my airplane sitting there broadside on her dock with a big flag saying airplane rides, right, or seaplane rides. That's the way that goes, and that would be fantastic. But as far as, you know, somebody transiting the area with a seaplane, that would be way better over on that north side of the pier where
Right.
somebody could bring a family in, eat lunch, get some ice cream, and blast off, you know. And then if somebody said, hey, can I ride when you're playing, they could just go over there. That's
Yeah.
where the
Right,
operator is. Right.
Okay,
All right,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
I
sure.
think we're
Yep.
aired everything
Yep.
out, and like, I think it's
Yep.
great. Whatever the process is, we're willing to go through it,
Okay,
so.
yep,
perfect.
okay,
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
all right,
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for playing.
thank you,
Thank you
yep.
very much.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And if you wanna send that,
Sure.
PowerPoint along that, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I'll do
no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the visuals would be good for the fire chief,
Yep,
for sure.
all right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd shake your hands.
Yep,
Yep.
all right, let's move on. Is there any public input?
I do have one.
Oh, sorry.
Fellow has read the Alva Architects assessments of needs that's available on our website. And he's noticed a line in there that said that the town had done an assessments needs study and would like to know where he could find that study. To my knowledge, from watching meetings and reading minutes, that study was basically several in-depth discussions with the police chief and what he thought his needs would be.
No.
Is there something I can direct this fellow to go to?
Alva Architects has got a file, we'll ask them for this.
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they've got
Yeah.
all that
That's
stuff.
good. Okay, I didn't know of anything, so I
Yeah, it
brought it
wasn't
forward.
just-
That's all I have.
It wasn't just random conversation.
No, I'm aware of that, but,
Yep,
yeah, good. Thanks.
Joe, do you have any input?
No, I do not.
Okay,
Wanna go for an airplane ride?
No, that's okay.
all right, so let's move to the signature file. First is a voucher for reimbursement from the Milfoil Expendable Trust Fund for costs that we
Cost associated.
are incurring for this year's milfoil control program. So
I'll
it's,
make a motion that we sign. Is that just one signature?
one signature, yeah.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is notice of intent to excavate for 55-3-3.
I'll make a motion we sign.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's from Dirk's left arm a lot.
Yeah, really.
How deep can you go? There's restrictions, I know.
Next, we have a yield tax levy for 16-2-19, the amount of $282.02.
I'll make a motion that we sign.
I second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is one of those signed two places. Hi, Chief.
Hi,
How you doing?
good. Did you see the stuff from
I've
You know,
seen
you were specifically CC'd in some of it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's,
the back and forth on
back
that.
and forth.
Yeah.
There's another one I just sent over, back and forth also with the co-op,
Yeah,
so.
so the ADA compliance on the holding cell, John,
He's,
is that so?
I kinda left it up to him to do what he needs to do.
Okay.
But the issue becomes, can we send out the bids, which I kinda interpreted what the USDA said is no, but I don't know.
I felt like he knew that when they started this.
I don't know. And,
Well, my reading of it is that they're getting a price together that we can take to town meeting, and then they're gonna, if it gets approved, they're gonna instantly rebid the project. So
Okay.
how does that,
okay, if that's the case, that's fine, yep,
yeah,
then that.
and if USDA is okay with that, then
Yeah,
right.
that's the way we'll do it.
And it
Because
sounded
I'm not
like-
comfortable with the idea that the only place you can find a bid app is on our town website. And that's not effectively putting things out to bid.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
it's gonna be in a newspaper, but it's gonna be 3 days before it's due.
Right, and there are other construction,
yeah. Okay, I was just making sure that was, you're aware of it, and,
And as I understand at this point, if we say we're not gonna get any pricing until USDA
approval.
gives it its final approval, there may be no, we may not have any
Pricing.
information for a town meeting, and that's,
I
in my
understand.
view, is not acceptable, so I,
kind of shuts the whole thing down.
yeah, it does, right.
Well, if the town meeting had come off at the normal time, where would we be?
Well,
Right.
we
We
would
wouldn't have
have,
anything.
we would have been on a different schedule.
Yeah,
Okay,
much
so,
different.
so the schedule got expanded in
But
terms of
even
time
now,
because we
we
had
have
it
to-
available,
oh, we
and yeah,
gotta
now
hustle.
we're running, yeah, we're running tight.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you're aware of it, and the other thing with the co-op is,
I haven't seen that.
What's the
I just
thing
sent
with the
it.
co-op?
Well, the co-op apparently is going back and forth. I got reached out by reached out to me, the co-op did, because obviously they got contacted by the mechanical engineer about the service entrance. And I went, okay, but they wanted permission to release information for what's expected, so I did. And the co-op said, you know, there's these incentives, I guess, and these programs. We have a guy that works here that can help with that.
Right.
Phil's response was kind of, we're at 95% now, thank you anyways, kind of a, we're waiting for 95% approval, that's where we're at. We'll look at it afterwards. But her response is, our incentives have to be
In
beforehand.
the-
You know, I don't know, it's
Their
back and
incentives,
forth.
their incentives, is my memory of it, I can't imagine they've changed much, are lighting and motors.
Right,
So,
And Phil's response is, we have all LED lighting, we have these motors already, but her thing is we have to approve the incentive. I don't know, it's back
it
and
isn't that
forth.
we're buying the product from them, it's that they're approving the design.
Yeah, but I think
So
they
it's-
might give some,
Right, and then they're gonna give some incentive
Right,
for having
well-
designed it that way.
right.
Yeah.
and we had a conversation early on with Phil about the
Including
co-ops
the
programs,
utilities,
right?
right.
So,
So,
it-
there's a back and forth, she said, the email I got was, I guess I wasn't part of this email after I said, yeah, go ahead and talk to them. I'm not involved with designing it, but yes, this is the company working on it. And then she just sent me an email saying, I think I upset the architect a little bit, so I'm stepping back, just letting you know this is where we're at,
Man,
so.
everybody's so goddamn thin-skinned around here. I mean, she should be able to have a copy of the plans
Right.
and then make whatever recommendations she wants to make.
I'm forwarding it to you so you're in the loop, that's
All right.
all.
Yeah,
Okay.
Anyway, that was it.
okay.
I wanna make sure you saw the other stuff.
Thanks
though,
for
too.
making our day, chief.
I was trying to be simple about it,
Yeah,
Good.
not take a long time, you
no,
know.
that's good, that's good, thank you.
I want to keep you in the loop. Is there anything popping up
Yeah.
on it?
Okay.
All right, appreciate,
You're done with signature, okay.
done with signature file, okay. Couple of action items. Meeting schedule. Going forward to accommodate
Got it.
all of us. So, you're not available on May 10th.
Right.
Town meeting is the 15th. How do you feel about meeting instead on the 14th, which is normally we meet the day before town meeting? Is
Yeah,
that-
we need to meet the day before town meeting.
That works for me. I was asked by the Conservation Commission if we had decided who was going to present what warrant articles.
That's what we do the day
And,
before.
yeah, and me having, virtually no input on any of those articles, I could certainly do the contingency fund.
Yeah,
Basically, the moderator presents them, and then somebody kind of defends it, and then they go into discussion. So I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. We
The
can
only
figure that out.
thing is, I mean, I think that you're right about changing it to the 14th. You might need something before that though, because the 7th is when they were gonna give you everything, Phil, by the 10th.
A 4-bedroom house.
So if there's any issues that you might have to change before town meetings, don't you think you're gonna need to meet before the 14th? To make sure there's nothing that you have to decide before, the day before the town meeting? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
I don't know.
He's gonna have this stuff to us by the 10th?
7th,
By
supposedly.
the 7th. So
Supposedly,
we'll have time to review it. Why don't we,
right,
if we have to meet,
Yeah,
we'll
we-
decide
right.
then.
right.
I think it's,
Yeah.
okay,
Other than that Monday, I can be here any day of that week or the week before. There's no
Yeah.
problem.
okay,
So-
so we're gonna do the
So
14th.
let's make the 10th, the 14th.
okay.
I took a copy of this and I wrote this stuff down at home, and then I didn't,
There is.
the next one is June 14th,
Intermediate.
and,
Yeah, no,
Oh,
everything
yeah,
there
she
is
wants to
right
discuss
there.
that.
There's been a boat there.
I don't know if this is a good time,
So-
but
I don't know.
with all of them together, I thought we needed that.
so we could meet Friday the 18th, or Monday the 21st instead of the 14th.
We're in June.
Yep, yes. So,
Yeah.
Either the 18th or the 21st, yeah.
Either one's fine by me.
I'm okay.
let's go for the 18th.
Okay.
And it'll be a work session instead of regular meeting.
Yeah,
I wanna label them
yeah.
when I do
Yeah.
it. Same with the 14th, is that gonna be a work session? Yes.
No, I think we probably ought to make, because we're moving them, we ought to make it a regular meeting.
For
Both
the-
of those.
Both of them, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was
Because we're
expecting.
moving our regular meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, the town, okay.
Yep. All right. And you're gone end of July into August.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna suggest that the two of us meet on August 2nd, in the middle of the time that he's gone, without him.
Is that not a holiday?
I know.
Huh? August 2nd.
It's a red letter day.
Yeah, why is it red?
Why is that a red letter day?
Civic holiday
Oh, Canada.
All right.
It's a Canadian holiday, you wanna meet?
Hey, I'm happy to do it some other time.
Yeah, and you guys have carried on before. That shouldn't be an issue to me.
And then the following Monday, I'm gonna suggest we move to Friday the 13th.
Ooh.
Oh.
Birthday.
Huh?
That's my mom's birthday.
All right.
My mother's as well.
Wow.
Steve
And,
Hunter's birthday.
so, and then you're missing the 23rd,
Which I am too,
huh?
which I am too. That's my next week's vacation, September 20th.
How many vacations do you get?
Oh, no, I'm saying September 22nd.
Yeah, right,
Sorry.
you're,
I'm jumping.
yeah, so,
23rd, we're working on August.
yeah, the 23rd. Are you here on the 20th?
Yes.
I mean, you say you're missing that Monday, I don't know if you're taking extended.
Oh, no. That's just, those are one day. If it's extended, I've extended.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna suggest we do it on the 20th, Friday the 20th instead.
Okay.
And then September 27th,
Yep.
how about if we moved up to Friday the 24th?
Sure.
Would that work for you, or are you gone then too?
That's my birthday.
Yeah,
Happy birthday.
All right.
That's right.
Either the 24th or the
I'll
20th,
bring a
it
cake.
doesn't matter, but I'm not leaving until Sunday the 26th.
all right, so if we meet on Friday the 24th,
Okay.
That'll,
Settles that.
that'll work. And undoubtedly, there will be other dates that I have problems with that have not yet been identified. All right. So I had two other items in the action folder.
So,
One is a comment that was posted to the website.
Well, it's actually a request.
Hmm?
Yeah, she sent it to us. It goes to us.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, somebody lives off Canaan Road. That says, in the course of our 2-mile trip from where they live to the transfer station, they're amazed at the amount of trash, full bags, recyclable bottles that obviously flies out of people's pickup truck beds on their way to the transfer station. Is it possible to politely address this issue with some sort of signage at the transfer station or in the Tufton Borough Times? We are sure as this is happening all over town.
And I forwarded it to Chris and said, any opinions that you'd like
Yep.
to bring to the
Yeah,
selectmen?
and he suggested putting up some signage to keep our town clean and that sort of thing. And it's a good point, and you can always, generally in any town, I'm in a lot of towns around the central part of the state, you can tell the road to the transfer station because there's random stuff alongside, bounces out of the back of somebody's truck or
Very common.
just doesn't, so it's something that I think on an ongoing basis bears trying to get people's minds engaged so that they secure the trash and it doesn't end up alongside the road. Because some people, I think, if they have stuff fly out, are good about picking it up. A lot of people are not even
If they
aware
know
that
it, yeah.
that it comes out.
Right.
So,
So what would you guys like done? Do you want Chris to just put some,
I think any signage that he can
Right.
provide, another
He's coming in Monday too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thought is, to the extent that employees up there can engage in education with people coming in if stuff sort of falls.
so I'll leave that for you guys to discuss on Monday when he comes in?
Earth
Yeah.
Day was just yesterday.
Is it Monday?
It was,
Right.
yeah.
Didn't we usually?
No, they're not coming in Monday, they're coming in the.
Cleanup day is
Oh, no. Yes,
tomorrow, townwide cleanup day, yeah.
So hopefully we'll get better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and often what we find with the townwide cleanup day is it's not the random stuff that falls out of people's trucks on the way to the transfer station. An awful lot of it is beer cans and nip bottles and that sort of thing that are tossed out along the road as folks are on their way home.
So one beer away from the store.
Yep.
So Diane brought,
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you got $7,442.57. Where?
Okay,
In the warrant article?
the reason why I'm bringing this before the board is because I only have enough
This.
money encumbered left is this amount, and I'm $58 short to pay this invoice.
Right, but what other money do we have for the police department? Because you got $6,150 here. I mean, I'm showing a total of $6,209 you need. If you add this amount, right?
And the $58,
The 58.
yeah, that's what I'm short, I don't know where to get that money.
So that's in excess of what's encumbered?
We've got like $7,442 and some change right now in the encumbered fund left to pay on the PD study facility.
Right.
And I don't have enough, there's not enough there to pay
Was there,
both
I thought we had
invoices.
we haven't passed the warrant article.
No.
Now, I understand they had to do extra work and there was additional
Right.
costs.
Well, the
So-
Electrical, I mean,
engineering cost,
The
Was-
mechanical.
yeah, that was for the wetlands and all that
For
bullshit.
the mechanical, but then HEB had to do stuff for USDA.
Right.
And I guess the confusing part for me is, if you remember, Phil came in, had sent us an email stating that, you know, this is extra out of the USD, and that it would have to be paid from somewhere else. And you guys had thought it could come out of the encumbered funds for the design, because
Right.
it's still part of the design,
But she's run out of that money.
but she's run out of it.
Okay. This is all.
This is straightforward enough to understand, there's no
Yep.
problem there. Think about that.
So we don't have any warrant
Now,
article.
I need to also make note that Alva is holding $2,000 of retaining, a retainer. When we first
Right.
engaged them, we needed, they have $2,000 in their possession. So, that, you know.
So we don't really have any,
How much do we need?
it's 65.
It says $65,058. 6,500.
6,209.
Is that what I have? I don't have the
Yeah,
365.
but how much are we
I did it
short?
from memory.
That's what we need.
Okay.
That's what we're short,
Yes.
$6,209.
So-
Wow.
Now, we have, as I said, $2,000 retainer that they have, so that would reduce it to
Yeah, well, that's if
4,000.
Could it come out of
If we're
contingency
closing
if
out
it's
the
under
account, that
five?
works, but it doesn't work if you're
Right.
continuing.
Right.
Um, So when you said we sequestered that money, was that from a warrant article that we did that? Okay, we can't, so we can't overspend the warrant article.
Well, we,
Mm.
we can overspend it as long as we have money from someplace else too. We can't take money out of a special article and put it on something else, but we can add to that as long as we have money from somewhere else, but we haven't encumbered any funds beyond that.
And now we're gonna get another bill from them before the warrant articles pass. Shouldn't, right?
Another what?
Another
Bill from
Well,
them.
I'm not intimately involved in the study, but when do you get to use the $2,000 at the very end?
Yeah. Or they give it back to you. I mean, you have to, it's sort of like having a retainer with an attorney.
Yeah.
You get
Right,
to use
right.
whatever you want to, you have,
Right.
it's a commitment.
I would think you could use it on the last invoice.
Yeah, that's how
Right.
people generally do it.
Right.
What about the contingency? That's 5,000, right? We've never used it.
Right, but we haven't re-upped it. It went away January 1st.
Right, we don't have a
Oh, yeah,
contingency
yeah,
fund
yeah.
right now until
Right,
town
right.
meeting.
We're
Right.
stuck. How much have we paid Alba so far in this process?
I have to go look.
I mean, I'd say take the money and pay HEB and tell Alba that we're just gonna have to wait till after town meeting. I mean, we have to have some money somewhere for, and then he's gonna say, well, what if the warrant article doesn't pass? And then we're gonna have to say, well, take it out of contingency.
Yep.
I think we had enough to pay.
Well, it's
Well-
because of the changes.
So part of it is the additional work that they did when they came back and re-signed mechanical.
Oh,
So I think that's the problem.
The mechanical, and then HEB had to do that.
Well, yeah,
Wetland,
right.
That way.
is it wetland? What do you think?
Well, it was, chief did it first and USDA didn't want it done that way, and so we had to ask HEB to do it, to meet USDA's requirements.
I don't know what the permitting is.
Well,
So do we have a final set of documents for this thing?
No,
no,
no, they're working off the 95%
I mean, that's what the whole
engineering right now.
correspondence was about.
All right, where are we gonna find $6,200?
Well, direct assistance, we spent $150 out of the 12,000.
I know we have the money.
Right.
Well, the thing is, summer's coming, so, and what we spent that on was food. And we didn't do electric, telephone, shelter, or anything like that.
It's
Do we
just-
anticipate between now and next December with the cold weather coming again, what are we gonna do with that? Could we possibly get any out of that?
Well,
It's,
so
it's more a matter of,
where we're gonna charge it, not where
Right.
we're gonna have the money.
Well-
We know that we're gonna have.
We always have some,
That's
but
what I was looking, didn't have the, that's a fight, no, where's the current?
oh, I'm sorry, it's next.
Did you want, charging other town properties?
So,
oh, that's a possibility.
I would,
We can't charge the warrant article,
Right.
no,
so we're done there.
yeah,
So we need to take $7,400 out, or 72, whatever you've got in there. And
You saying what, other
Other
property?
town properties
Yeah.
and the building.
General government buildings,
Mm. I mean, it fits the category.
so,
Or
so,
design
yeah,
permit.
so if we charge it into other property maintenance improvement line, then at least we know where it is.
And then I'll label it as such,
Huh?
PD facility study, I'll,
I don't want
Make-
bridges and docks, we have a permit in mind. Do we
Yeah.
wanna- Either one's fine.
I would just put it, I mean, it's someplace to stick it,
Improvements.
yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah. 4194, 07410, just put it in there.
Are you okay with that, guy?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's,
It doesn't matter where the money comes from,
Right.
we have plenty.
We just have to
We don't know
justify
where it's
the-
gonna
right,
go.
we wanna put it someplace that it makes
So you should
sense
put a-
as an
Put a
expense.
footnote next to that, that
Yeah.
we're gonna move that out of there.
Right, that lets us know what we.
all right, so I'll pay both invoices
Yep.
then.
Yes.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
Oh, let's see, all right. All right. Correspondence. Board of Adjustment has a hearing on May 4th. Dufferin Times is in here. Q&As on the new police facility. Email from Primex regarding the
Swim program.
swim. And I didn't read all the way through it.
Diane did give a copy to Dennis, about the Primex answer.
Yeah, all right.
It's pretty hard to write a waiver that really
It's
holds
90%.
water.
They're willing to assist him if he gives them a chance, they'll tweak it,
Yep,
but they mainly ask that you separate it so that it's not part of the registration form.
right,
Yeah, that's basically what they were talking about.
okay.
So,
So,
They don't want to rewrite it themselves, but he could submit it to them and they would add, subtract, multiply, divide, or whatever.
so I don't know if that's something you can bring up at the next meeting, Guy, or what.
That'll be, yeah, it's quite a ways off yet, but I can do that.
Yep. Yep. So what we need to do is get the release and liability language to them for review and suggestion, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And
They've already seen that.
they've already seen this?
Yes, and they said that that little blurb was off of their website, and basically Gina put that on everything when she did a Parks and Rec. He's saying that it needs to be more specific just to swim,
Alright.
if you're gonna attach
Alright.
it to swim.
Yeah.
So they just,
Carefully tailored to the activity in question, can't be general.
Right.
so all he has to do is pull out the parts that don't pertain to swim and resubmit it.
So, all right. So is Dennis working on this?
Diane forwarded it to him with the
Alright,
suggestions. I
so-
haven't heard anything from
Yeah.
Dennis at
Me
all.
neither.
So, and to separate this into a separate release and liability.
Yep.
So if he can work on that, get it off to him, then we can
Yeah.
get their answer back.
So I'll have Diane follow up with
All right,
Dennis while I'm gone, okay?
good. All right, so then there's correspondence from the coalition communities, which I mentioned the next full meeting is on Monday at 11, which I will try and attend.
It's a Zoom meeting?
It is, yep. And then we have, this is
Let's see.
correspondence from USDA relative to our
Yeah.
approval from them, which is not,
Nothing
Not
you
approved.
really have to do with, yeah,
Yep.
Right.
all right.
informative.
Office of the Governor American Rescue Plan, I don't see that in here.
It's gonna happen.
It's, yeah,
I put it in there.
All right.
No,
I mean, the other thing we
I
gotta.
thought I read it, but,
I mean, if you think about it,
Somebody might have pulled it out of it.
yeah,
who knows if this infrastructure thing's gonna happen, but the Pier 19 certainly falls within that.
Yep.
rubric.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
So that could save us some money.
that's right. So it's important, if anybody's tossing stuff out, let's have our hand out, get what we can.
Absolutely.
Because nobody's gonna knock on the door and say, excuse me, I think you missed an opportunity here.
Right.
Do we want to approve minutes from
I'll
Last
make a
Friday.
motion that we do approve them. I've read them.
I have as well, and I'll second that motion.
All right, any additions, corrections, discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, anything that I've missed?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, I just, not to prolong this meeting, but I did have a chat with Jackie about getting some historical stuff together for the Pier 19.
Yep, the Union Wharf.
Yeah, I think, and I've given it quite a lot of thought actually, that I shouldn't be involved in the presentation in Concord.
You should not.
Right, only because of my history with Mr. Kenny's wife and,
Yep,
you know, all of the hallmarks of a Democrat, which doesn't seem to work well in this current political environment. So I think having you present it would be a lot healthier for our prospects than having me down there. But I'd like to get, and I'll try to get as much together as I can so that we can review it. But the only reason I bring it up is because I know your schedule gets a little compacted.
yep,
And I wanted to make sure that
well, we'll,
we can make it.
these things, you know, the priorities have to go where they go and make
Right.
sure that, you know, it's
I mean,
important,
if
it's
all else
important that we
fails-
do it.
All else fails, I'll go.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there.
No,
as-
that's fine, and I'm fine with that. Yep. All right.
That same guy, but he's still got milk in his upper lip.
There you go.
Too new at
Yeah.
this.
And guess what? I don't want to go anyway. If I may, just quickly, I have met, obviously with Parks and Rec, I met with the Conservation Commission on their little Zoomy thing.
Yeah,
It went well, I'm not a big fan of it, I'd rather do the in-person. But I'm pleased to note that they have a couple of fairly young folks on the board. We
They have some new blood.
Yeah, it would be really
That's
nice
enthusiastic.
to get more participation, but it went well. And again, as I mentioned before, we'll decide who presents what warrant articles just
Yep.
before town meeting, and we'll be fine.
Yep,
That's it. Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
you.
thank you.